parallelograms. By the end of the lesson, I will be able to find the area and perimeter of parallelograms. Vocabulary. The first thing that you need to know is that a parallelogram is a flat shape with opposite sides parallel and equal in length. So these tick marks that we learned about show that they are equal. Also notice that the diagonal angles are also equivalent. So A represents A. Parallelograms, usually we think about shapes like this middle one, but remember that a rectangle and a square are both parallelograms, and this equation will work to find the area and the perimeter for all three of these shapes that you see. The second thing is area. Area is the size of the surface. The units are squared. So if I had centimeters, they would be squared. If I had yards, they would be squared. The last thing is that perimeter is the distance around a two-dimensional shape, and the units are not squared. So if my units were centimeters, I just simply leave them as centimeters. If they were yards, I simply leave them as yards. The two formulas that you need to know are the area is the base times the height. So note that the height is usually indicated by a dashed line, and it can be on the outside of the shape, and it can also be indicated in the inside of the shape. There are two different places that it can be indicated. So the formula, area equals base times height. You might see it just like that. So A equals BH. H is the right angle, right? It is at a right angle to the base. So if I draw a right angle with the dashed line, right, it should make a right angle with the base. This height does also, it's just on the outside of the base if I extended the base out. The second thing is the perimeter. The perimeter formula is 2 times the base plus the side lengths. So the side lengths are not the red dashed mark that I made up here, not the height, right? It's different. The side length is the diagonal and then also the base. You could add up all the sides. So you could potentially have a formula that perimeter equals, let's do a lowercase b, base plus side plus side. That is okay, right? The more simplified version is perimeter equals 2 times the quantity of b plus s. All right, we're going to do 4 examples. The first example is this parallelogram. We need to identify the 3 numbers as what they are so that we don't get confused. So the top of our shape, this 9 yards, is our base because this is the same down here, right? So the top and the bottom are always the same. So this is our base. Our dashed line over here on the left is 30. Notice that it's indicated to be at a right angle of the base. This is our height. And the diagonal over here of 32 yards of this, right, is a side, right? It's not the height, it's the side. So the area formula for finding the area of a parallelogram is area equals base times height. I'm going to find base and I'm going to find height and I'm going to substitute into my equation. So area, the base is 9 and the height is 30. And if I multiply the base and the height together, my area is going to be 270. So 270 yards squared. Make sure that you have your squared. Why do we square? Because we're multiplying, right? If I used yards as my base unit and my yards as my height unit, yards times yards, I could write as yards squared. Likewise, if I have 2 times 2, yes, it does equal 4, but I could write it as 2 squared before I write it as 4. So that's why we square our units. Finding the perimeter. The perimeter my perimeter formula is 2 times the quantity of the base plus the side. So I'm going to substitute what I know. Perimeter equals 2. The base was 9 and the side was 32. So I'm going to add, because I need to follow the order of operations, which the order of operations says to do the parentheses first. So I have perimeter equals 2 times 41. And 2 times 41 is going to give me a perimeter of 1,681 yards. So to get all the way, that is not right. 41 times 2, how about that, is 82 yards. So to get all the way around my shape, I would have to have 82 yards to go all the way around my shape. The second example, notice this first example had our height up and down. This height is sideways, right? So we have to think about it and tilt your head to the left, like tilt your left ear towards the ground and turn your head, right? And now we can notice that 9 is our base, 7 is our height, and 8.5 is our side. If we used 7 as our base and 9 as our height, we would be okay, right? It really doesn't matter which one you use for what. All right, so the area formula is area equals base times height. And my base is 9 and my height is 7. So 9 times 7 is going to give me an area of 63. And let's not forget our units, which is meters, and meters times meters is meters squared. The perimeter formula is 2 times the quantity of base plus side. So I have the perimeter of 2 times the base is 9, and the side is 8.5. So 8.5 plus 9 is 17. So the perimeter is 2 times 17.5, and 17.5 doubled is 35, and our units are meters. Now, I said just a second ago that labeling this 9 as the height and this as the base wouldn't make a difference, and it wouldn't make a difference in the area formula. However, it is going to make a difference in the perimeter formula. So if you're finding area, it doesn't matter if 7 or 9 is the base of the height. In perimeter, the base has to be the 9. It has to be this edge, because I'm not going to count 7. I'm not going to count this 7 as part of my perimeter. It's going through my shape. So I'm not going to count it as part of my perimeter. Third one. Notice that the height is on the outside. It's indicated on the outside of my parallelogram, right? So my height is always at a right angle with the base. So it will always be indicated with a right angle. The area formula, let's make sure that we know what these things are. This is my height, this is my base, and this is my side. So area base times height. The area of a base of 2.5 and the height of 0.5. 2.5 times 0.5 is 1.25. So my area is 1.25 inches squared. The formula for perimeter: 2 times the quantity of base plus side. The base is 2.5, and the side is 1. So I have 2 times, and then 2.5 plus 1 is 3.5. And when I multiply those two things together, I get a perimeter of 7. So 7 inches. Last example. This is just a rectangle. You should recognize this one, right? You might have been taught that the area is length times width, but we're going to stick with the area of base times height, right? This is my base, this is my height, and it's also my side. So the base is 32, and the height is 25, and 32 times 25 is 800. So the area is 800. Let's not forget our units. Centimeters times centimeters are centimeters squared. The perimeter, 2 times the quantity of base plus side. The perimeter of 2, the base is 32, and the side is 25. 32 plus 25 is going to give me 57. And 57 times 2 is going to give me a perimeter of 114 centimeters.